Hello everybody, and welcome to the underground world of OSRS speedrunning. Now, speedrunning in old school RuneScape is not very popular, and there's a few reasons for that, but we're going to get into that a little bit later. So to start off here, what is speedrunning? Well, most people know what it is, but it's simply completing a task in the quickest amount of time possible. More often than not, it is completing a game. So for example, finishing all of Super Mario 64 in the quickest amount of time. And within each game, there's usually a bunch of subcategories. So like for Super Mario 64, you'd be doing like an all-star run where you get all the possible stars. You could just get enough to beat the game, and there's even more categories after that. So you might be wondering, how does this apply to old school RuneScape? Because RuneScape inherently is an open world game that has very little completable goals. So the way this works is usually by finishing quests. Since quests are the closest thing in RuneScape to having a completion, they are usually what are most often speedrun. So we have the F2P Champions Guild run, which is essentially going from Tutorial Island all the way to the Champions Guild. So you need to do all the quests to enter the Champions Guild in the quickest amount of time, and they're normally done on an Ironman, or even sometimes an Ultimate Ironman. There's a Tutorial Island run, which is insanely quick. I didn't think this was possible. Like, I saw 3 minutes 36 seconds. I didn't actually think that was doable, because I've done Tutorial Island quite a few times to make all my accounts for my 100 count flipping series, so I didn't actually think that was possible, but clearly it is. So 3 minutes and 39 seconds is the time to beat, and you can even go and have a look at the YouTube clip after. I'm not going to play too much of it because copyright issues, but go watch them, they're really fun. 3 minutes 39 seconds is an insane time to beat. If we skip through this a little bit, we can see that is indeed correct. So if you think you can do better than that, definitely give it a shot. But look at this guy, 3 minutes 39 seconds, easy as that. Other runs are the F2P Black Knight Fortress, which is a little different. It's kind of similar to the F2P Champions Guild, except most people seem to be doing this on an Ultimate Ironman. Essentially, you just need to complete the Black Knight Fortress quest, and there's 4 people doing that run. Pay to play, there's only the Mithril Gloves category, which only a few people have done the run. I'll explain in a bit why pay to play is not as popular, but essentially, it's a bit of a time investment to be able to do this run, but there's still 2 people on here, 2 hours and 21 minutes. Pretty good. Now, Mithril Gloves is essentially just all the quests within the RFD quest line required to get the Mithril Gloves, so not too much. And last up here, we have a meme category, the Camo top, which is just for fun, but it looks like someone actually got it in 5 minutes and 37 seconds, which is absolutely bonkers. You might notice that there's a few different columns here. Obviously, the first 3 are pretty self-explanatory. Membership, most are done F2P, but here's another one here, multi-logging. Now, what is multi-logging? It's essentially using a second account to, in a way, aid your run, whether it be aggroing monsters away, or any other way that you can interact with your account that's actually doing the main run to help it out. Most people don't think that should be allowed, but they do have a category for it, but most of the runs you might notice are done without multi-logging. And of course, the different game modes like Ironman, Standard, and Ultimate Ironman. Most people do it on Ironman because it seems to be the most fair and more in the spirit of speedrunning. It doesn't seem normal to just have all the required items just dumped over. It kind of takes away a lot of the fun and the variety and the different routes people can take to get those items and whatnot. Over here, there's also a bunch of forum posts. There is still a small active community here. They talk about different runs that might get incorporated and the reasons why they're not in there, or just other stuff. I'll come have a read over here, it's definitely interesting. Now, a lot of new run categories get suggested pretty often, like let's say the Rogue's Den, or bosses get suggested a lot because, well, they even have a timer on them, or higher level content, but there are a few reasons why these are not viable. That comes to my next point. Why are some runs viable and others not? Now, the main problem comes from that quests are not replayable, so for any pay-to-play content where you want to speedrun it, you have to buy a new account, essentially, buy a bond, pay for membership to do it again. So it's really not viable to have people spending $3 or $4 every time they want to do a run, because you can easily fuck it up. People do these runs 100, 1,000 times, and you just can't pay money to do that every time. So that is why most runs are done in an F2P world. Now you might say for things like Rogue's Den or Zora or stuff like that, you can repeat them over and over and over again. That is true. However, the gear disparity between people and the levels are going to be way too hard to balance. Like, it takes thousands of hours to get a high level account and billions of gold sometimes to get maxed out gear, that it's just not fair to have to grind so far just to be able to speedrun this game. It's way too much of a time investment just to start something that shouldn't really take that long. Other suggested categories are stuff like skilling categories, where like first to get, I don't know, 50 wood cutting, and that could be done from level 1, and it might be viable, However, the main issue comes from there not being enough variation in the possible ways that you can get 50 woodcutting. Like in a week, people would determine the quickest way to get it, and maybe people will be shaving off seconds for the next couple of years, but mostly it's going to be the same method over and over and over again. Not a lot of variety, so I don't think it'd be super interesting. Now, if you guys have any suggested runs you think would be cool for RuneScape, definitely leave a comment down below. These people are probably always looking for good ideas, but again, mostly has to be free to play, unfortunately. So what is really holding back speedrunning from being actually popular in RuneScape? Well, to start off here, the quests cannot be redone, and that is really the root of the issue. Beyond the fact that you need to balance each run per account, not being able to redo the quest is the biggest issue. Next up is that Oldschool RuneScape is by its very nature not really a speedrunnable game. Most of the game is about not having a finite ending. So a lot of the goals in this game are not really tangible, there's no set finish for them, and maxing out in this game takes forever, so no one would ever speedrun that. Even though there have been attempts to do, like, well, this guy, Easy Escape, he was pretty popular, he did all of the FTP quests in the speedrun, still, but this guy here did all quests in Oldschool RuneScape in 89 hours apparently, but even that, he prepared everything, got all the stats ahead of time. So it's not really a true speedrun, although it does technically count. But so in the end, the only way to have an even playing field is to start every single run from Tutorial Island from the beginning, and that is the most similar to other speedruns. And that's kind of what's holding it back. So you have to start out from Tutorial Island, and you have to do it in free to play. So there's really a limited amount of runs that you can do. Now, how can this be changed? Well, one popular suggestion that was actually mentioned by Mod Ash is to have a tournament world with repeatable quests and probably other ways to modify the game data to get everyone certain stats or certain quests done or something like that, and set up maybe run categories or worlds that have certain runs available on it. And that would really be the only way to cater to speedrunning, and I do hope it would happen because I think that might be a better way to break into a competitive RuneScape game over maybe Deadman mode, which clearly doesn't seem to work as well as anticipated. But I think it would be worth giving it a try. So unfortunately, without any major changes, having anything other than a very niche community is probably not going to be viable. I really hope they make changes because I would like to see more competitive speedrunning. I really enjoy watching speedrunning, but to really get the most out of it, you actually need to be knowledgeable about the game to begin with, and I know a reasonable amount about RuneScape. I played it a lot, so it'd be fun to actually have people speedrunning quests, even speedrunning bosses. I mean, stuff like the Inferno and stuff like that seems like a very speedrunnable thing, but the problem is that the entry point for it is so high, getting the gear is ridiculously long. And while we're here and on that point, they actually did make a tournament world to try out some of the new Raids 2 items, and Inferno was possible to do for a while. Unfortunately, they did remove that eventually, which is fair because if people get free practice, they're not wasting resources or anything on it. But really all they need is a world like that for, let's say, Zalra or the Fight Caves. People will be able to redo it again and again and grab any gear they want and probably even set their levels, or just everyone gets a maxed out level account, which probably would make the most sense. So clearly the technology is already there, they would just need to dedicate some resources to doing it, and I think it would totally be worth it. Anyway guys, hope you enjoyed the video. Definitely go check out some of these speedruns, they're very fun to watch. I'll leave a link in the description for the website and any other resources regarding it. And yeah, hope you enjoyed. If you did, don't forget to leave a like on the video. I always appreciate it, and I will see you in the next video.